So we start by saying Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sangaya, Namo Tri Ratnaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sangaya, Namo Tri Ratnaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sangaya, Namo Tri Ratnaya. Then we generate a feeling of bodhicitta. Remember always, bodhicitta is a feeling. It's not an idea. It is something that we need to generate. So let's focus on that. Try to feel compassion and love while retaining this idea of emptiness, and now spread it to all the beings by saying Om Bodhi Chitam Utpadayami. And now, just for a second, let's meditate to settle our minds. Thank you. So, we're going to start with the reading of the. Give me 1 second. Of the sutra of the Tagata Nyenyaoka. I'm going to send you first of all the the link to the place where you can read it. I can let me check if in Meet I can send the Meet the. Okay, I cannot send it like I can send in. I can send in Zoom. Let me just copy here the path to this journey. So and your journey. Mhm. Here it is. So if you can go to this link, I send you right now, so you can follow along, and if you like, read it yourself. I'm going to give you 1 minute so you can get in. Meanwhile, I'll talk a little bit about this. There is a very old tradition of people trying to, let's say, use use the Ranis for different things. So some texts, like the Heart Sutra that Lama Sele was teaching last Saturday, they are so famous because basically they are used for everything. But a lot of other texts are more specific. However, this particular Dharani traditionally has two uses. The first use, which I think is a purpose, the passing of Gustavo, has to do with the purification of the rebirths as they go along. The second, it's the invocation to work and to invoke the power of the sun and the moon in astrological magic. That is the reason why I thought in the beginning when Bhadrabega, the Dharmapala, suggested this for me was going to be, and I was like, okay, astrological magic, flat chakra, but I think it's apropos of everything. So is everyone all right? Has everyone got uh, their Ani open? Excellent. So let's start. The Dharani of the Tathagata Jnanaloka that purifies all rebirths. Homage to the hot missioned one. Homage to all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Homage to the blessed one, the Tathagata Jnanolga. Homage to the Tathagata Subarna Prabhakutarnibasa. Homage to the Tathagata Satyavarin. Homage to the Tathagata Vikshmasra Bhadrajita Raja. The four Bodhisattvas, Samantabhadra, the youthful Manjushri, Taranishbara Raja, and Bhadrapani were dwelling in the abode of the sun and the moon along with the Tathagatas. When the sun and the moon reached the place where the Tathagatas and Bodhisattvas were seated, they saw that the Tathagatas upon lion thrones, bedecked with jewels, and the Bodhisattvas seated within palaces, arrayed with banners, bearing the rose apple insignia. The sun and moon each thought, how can we obtain from these Tathagatas and Bodhisattvas the Dharani mantra called the Wise One, pervading the 10 directions, which rises like the dawn to shine a light upon all beings and dispel their thick darkness? With its power, we could shine light upon all sentient beings. The Tathagatas and Bodhisattvas perceived the thoughts of the sun and the moon and responded with the following Dharani mantra. Saryativa Kajurdada Kajuprabha meta kalata. Itantamsa surata surata sutasa. Itantamsa belu belu belapani. Karmur mutani harani kalapani. Kalapani. Iduduzi turturdiusi da zuti da suti dara dara diri diri duru duru dura dura kakakla sata za 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 jilla 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 paya da su zumbu zumbu eta su eta zabani Yure de cara cara, kiri kiri, kuru kuru, kurma kurma, karma bani, karma bani, kelu kela bani, kakari, kakari, laru bude dure mahajuru de. Kara kara kiri kiri pidusi pidusi dasu dasu hasu hasu hazabani swaha. Then the Bodhisattva Samantabhadra addressed both the sun and the moon, saying, Sons of the lineage, 84 million Buddhas have taught this Dharani mantra in order to help beings who are bound for lower rebirths. Sons of the lineage, it is much easier to find a rare Udumbara flower than it is for these Dharani mantras verses to appear in the world. Sons of the lineage, obtaining these Dharani mantra verses is much easier than reading and retaining these verses in one's mind. Sons of the lineage, it is far more likely for a Buddha to appear in the world than for these Dharani mantra verses to appear in the world. Sons of the lineage, if one recites these Dharani mantras 3 times a day and 3 times a night for 21 days on behalf of those beings trapped for eons in a bitchy hell, namely, those who have committed the 5 inexpiable acts, who have forsaken the holy Dharma, the power of these verses will open the 100 doors of the great Abichi hell, and those beings will attain liberation. This being the case even for them, it goes without saying that for human beings in Jambudvipa, the same is true. Whoever hears these Dharani mantras shall truly know that we, the 4 Tathagatas, the 4 Bodhisattvas, and the sun and the moon support them. And the Dharani verses are Dunati maha dunati suru suru swaha sukla vishodani tara tara swaha yoti pradipe turu turu swaha padma malani satyara bude huru huru swaha satya bude satya lokani kiri kiri swaha dharani buddhi apretipa buddhi kuru kuru swaha lakshanjatite duma parihare kuru kuru dara mahadara dara dara yamatiye swaha avrate sutape apratati buddhi dara dara yamtiye swaha. Homage to the blessed one, the Tathagata Nyanyaloka. Homage to the Tathagata Subarna Prabhupada Nirvasa. So homage to the Tathagata Satyabadin. Homage to the Tathagata Bhiksha Maribadrita Raja. Make these mantra verses effective. Swaha. And this concludes the Noble Dharani. So, did you guys like it?
It was awesome, Lama. Thank you.
Excellent. So let's we're going to chant it a little bit, this short Dharani, but let me tell you how traditionally this is done. So there are two ways to invoke the protection. One is the, let's say, the more textual way, right? What you need to do is you need to build the altar with the four Buddhas and the four Bodhisattvas and the sun and the moon, right? So how do you do this? Well, these Buddhas usually do not have a lot of iconic representation, right? So, for example, yes, Nyanyoka tends to appear in Japanese art because also he's mentioned in the Lotus Sutra, but I never can say this name in one go. Subarna Pravakuta Nirbasa. Oh, I did it. So this is the power of Duekhor Duchen. Subarna Pravakuta Nirbasa. It's probably not as well known as the others. So here's my advice: pick any four statues of Buddhas, and you put four statues of Buddhas. Now, the Bodhisattvas, you know, Vajrapani, Manjushri, Dharanisvara Raja, and Vajrapani. So the only one you might not have an image of is Dharanisvara Raja. Why is that? Because this is a particular form of Vajrapani that sometimes is conflated with Avalokiteshvara, in which is Avalokiteshvara bringing Dharmani mantras to people who are needed through the power of Vajrapani. Why it's not probably that much practice? Because it's the form of Dharani practice, and Dharani is, unless you're talking a particular school, a couple of particular schools in Chinese Buddhism, it's not as popular. Although I have one Upadesh of him, so I will be teaching it in the future, right? The problem is that by giving the Upadesha, it's a tantric practice, so we'll see, we'll see. I still haven't figured out how to give it, and Dharmapalas haven't answered, so with time. But you can put an image of Manjushri, an image of Vajrapani, an image of Samantabhadra. Remember, as bodhisattvas, not as Buddhas. And then, if you don't have an image of Dharanishvara Raja, you put a Dharani text, any Dharani text. This Dharani text, it's going to be wonderful, right? After that, what you really need to do is to put a picture of the sun and the moon, right? Of Chandra and Surya. You already have, I think. If not, you can find one. You let me know. But there's a lot of images online. Also, it's fine if you just put a picture of the sun that's outside of us and the moon too, right? It's not like they have to be particular. It's particularly according to one text. And if you have already iconic representation because they are very popular deities, my advice is that you use the ones from the Garaha Matrika practice, if you have, right? If not, you can use just a sun and moon. So far so good. So if you are practicing this as a general purification for the beings, especially for beings in Avicii, and this is something I really yes, Jonathan,
No, sorry, fue sin querer, fue sin querer.
no hay problema. It was just a mistake. So this is a very good practice if you like to do it at least once a month. What I'm going to tell you. You set up the altar, you make an offering. Offering can be any kind of nice incense that's not musky or very strong. For example, don't use palo, but you can use sandalwood, right? Or you can use argabati. That's wonderful. The Indian variant, or you can use, for example, myrrh. That's absolutely very good. Sorry, it translated mirror in my Spanish, but it's mirror, like the thing they use in the Catholic churches, the resin. That is absolutely wonderful. Um, so having done that, what you do is you print out the text and you put it in the altar. Print on one copy, you put it there, and then you bow 3 times to it. And then at the morning, the first thing you do when you wake up, you read this whole text 3 times from one into the other. You don't need to read it slow. You can read it at the speed that you would like it. And then After you read it 3 times, you go to do your work, whatever it is, and then when you come back before going to sleep, again, you make an offering to the altar, you bow to it 3 times, and you read the text 3 times. And with this, you will essentially make sure that the seeds are sown to open the gates of hell, so to speak, to purify all things, right? Open the gates of hell sounds like a very bad schlocky movie, but for us, we need to empty hell, right? Empty hell. We need to make sure that the beings that are now in hell are born here in the human world, so they can have an opportunity for liberation. Does that make sense so far? I hope it does. Let me know if you have any questions. So, having said that, the second way you can do it is just as an invocation of protection. And this is what we're going to do now. And we're going to read the second mantra, second Dharani, sorry, that is on I'm going to copy it here, so it's easier for you to read it. It's just the second one, because what this does, I don't know if you can read it in Sanskrit or not, but if not, let me tell you what we're going to do here. It's the invocation of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. So the 4 invocations are going to be done here, and this essentially invokes the blessing of first the 4 Buddhas, then the 4 Bodhisattvas, and then the sun and the moon. So whenever you need a general blessing, it's very good. And whenever you can do it as a general blessing in a holy day like today, it is even better. So what are we going to do? I'm going to walk you through it, and then we're going to do it together. We're going to rest, sit again, going to focus again, meditate, and then imagine that whenever we are, there is the sun. In this case, it's here. It's moving towards the west. The west is behind me in this direction, and the moon is a little bit over there, right? And they're looking at us. And through those eyes of the sun and the moon, there's the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. Traditionally, they have a particular arrangement, but don't worry. Imagine that all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas that you know, not even this 8, right? But everyone that you know is looking at us through the eyes of the sun and the moon. And because they're looking at us, their blessing comes in the light rays. It doesn't matter if it's night, it doesn't matter if it's day. Imagine that the light that comes, light that is from the sun and the moon, in silver and gold, comes towards us and towards every single being that we need to protect, and surrounds us. It's like a shield of light, of this two-colored light that essentially make us impervious to damage, but also heals us and empower us with the energy that we need to help all the rest of the beings achieve Shambhala. And just as they're moving, if you imagine it carefully and you look correctly, you can probably see Shambhala. Now, you might not say it, don't worry, just visualize empowerment. While we chant this mantra, we're going to chant it 21 times, or probably 27, just to make sure that we don't miss Naksharatras. But the trick to look at Shambhala is, I mean, it was a historical place, but right now it's more of a state of mind, right? As Gesart tells it. It is a drop of mercury in the mirror of the mind, he says. But probably that's a little bit too poetic for now. It's it's the nature of our own mind, basically, Shambhala, right? With the caveat that because it is Buddhism, it's a collective nature of our own mind. It's a realm of people that work together, right? It's not just one person. So if you look at it slantwise, if you look at your own mind, not directly, right? You know how there are many teachings that say, look directly at your own mind, nature, you won't find it. It doesn't work with Shambhala. You have to look at Shambhala, you have to look at slantwise, skewed. You have to look at in the interstices or the space between your mind. And this is why Shambhala is very much associated with the Sadharma Pundarika, the Lotus Sutra. You know the Lotus Sutra. You guys all have read the Lotus Sutra, right? If you haven't read the Lotus Sutra, please go whatever you're going to do else today. Get the Lotus Sutra. It is online. It is free. You can get a very nice edition, also a very fancy one. Read it because there's a lot of later Mahayana thought just in that. And in there are the four bodhisattvas and the four kings, which are the same. Okay? Same here from here, the four Buddhas. But if anyone has read the Lotus Sutra, do you remember where they reside? Do you remember where the four Buddhas, the four bodhisattvas reside in the Lotus Sutra? If you don't, I'm going to spoil it to you. They reside in the spaces between the spaces and what is called the air beneath the earth. So some people have, I think mistakenly, thought that it's kind of a whole word, like in the old movies. In Julius Verne, you go to a like in King Kong, you go to a cave, and suddenly there is like a whole earth beneath us. But it's not. What they're saying essentially, it's they are in those moments where you can look at it very slantingly, you can get to the nature of the mind. Does that make sense, or did I just lose you guys? And the last thing that you heard was King Kong, whole word.
Pardon me, Lama. I thought Shambhala could also be entered into through this interstitial physical space.
Well, yes and no. I think that what happens is that there's this small there is this idea like the Nicholas Roerich made his own career about this, that Shambhala is in a particular place in Central Asia, right? And he went around, and you probably have seen the movies and especially the paintings that he did. It is wonderful. It is an absolutely wonderful thing to look. Remember, though, that in a very shambolic way, he was also a spy, right? He was a spy that was sent to basically assess. He was part of a great game. So I think that some people kind of get like the nice story about Roerich and Blavatsky, and they forget that they were pretty much very active, right? They were political designees. So then they say, okay, it must be like in a particular place in Pakistan or Afghanistan, and they go search there. What happens is that there are places in which it's easier for us to invoke spirits, or at least the kind of nature spirits that people seem to want to invoke more, called bayous, in which the frontiers between the spirit world and here they are thinner. To be honest, this is also because people kind of want to invoke the same type of spirit that they wanted to invoke in the Tibetan texts. Today, if you live, for example, like you, Lamajili, in Connecticut or New York, you're not going to be able to invoke spirits from there. This does not mean that there are no bayous in New York or Connecticut. In Connecticut, never been for years. There, I don't know, but in New York, there certainly are. Certainly are. Like here in Buenos Aires, they are, right? It's just that the spirits are not the spirits of Teorangs, for example, right? And in Tibetan books, but you can invoke them. So you can get to Shambhala to one of these, but it doesn't have to be in. It doesn't have to be at all in Central Asia. Though for me, if you go there and you go to a bayou, you stand a much easier chance because you're already kind of in resonance, right? You went to a very remote place, like here in Patagonia. Patagonia is full of bayous, right? You go to Willamacele, perhaps to one of these very big mountains, and then it's easier to invoke nature spirits there, and from there you can get to Shambhala. But critically, you can get from Shambhala where you are right now. However, and this is probably something very contradictory to what I was saying, also you can get to other Pure Lands. Today is Shambhala Day, so we remember Shambhala, but Pemaco or Sukabati, they're just the same, right? They're just there on the edge of awareness, so to speak. Does that make sense, Lamajile?
Yes, Lama. The way you taught us, you can get to Shambhala from anywhere. That's how I done it. That's how everybody does it. But I was just curious because we've all heard these mythologies of Shambhala being a city, and you got to wander for a long time before you get there.
Right. There's an actual category called Burjik, Sham Burjik, which means guidebooks, right? Like like if you buy a guidebook for a city, like a Buenos Aires Lonely Planet guy, there is this the Shambhala Lonely Planet guy, which tells you how to get there. And therefore, other Pure Lands, like from Pemaco, I have translated a wonderful burjik of wonderful guidebook from Duekhor Duchen, right? They're wonderful. And I think that in a way, because if you do this kind of pilgrimage with devotion, you end up getting there, right? Just through devotion and through effort. You don't need to know how to do traveling, and you don't need to have this kind of empowerments. But it is not because it's physically there, right? What my reading, this is just myself, right, as a scholar, understanding of Shambhala and the relationship with Central Asia, it's that Shambhala was probably one particular one place. Like remember that Shambhala, though most people think it's a city, it's actually a kingdom, right? It's a realm. So the city in Shambhala is called Kalapa. But where does this arises from? From the Vishnu Purana. The first historical mention of Shambhala is on the Vishnu Purana. So my reading of this is that historically this was a place mentioned in Hindu and Buddhist texts, probably near the Swat Valley in the frontier between Pakistan and Afghanistan, where Guru Rinpoche was born, and also where Orient was located, right? That eventually was destroyed, and mythologies were told of that particular place, right? Like the lost land of Avalon in Western in English mythology, where King Arthur goes to rest, right? So people kind of think, oh, you have to be there, or if you go to France, you want to maybe get to Lamballe or Languedoc or Camelot, right? It doesn't matter. It's I mean, it's nice and it has a history there, but it's available for everyone who wants to go. Are the ties to Atlantis or Lemuria? Ask Brady. No, 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 no. Atlantis is a very different thing. Lemuria is a very different thing. That these are, let's say, later uh, hidden lands that were created mostly through literature, right? And Jonathan asked, is just Shambhala just for the ones initiated in Kalachakra 6 years? No, 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 no. There are a lot of people who have gone there. For example, to Tara. Tara is probably the most helpful deity of Shambhala. There's a series of deities that are associated with Shambhala, Vajrapani, Tara. It's just that the Kalachakra Tantra by itself talks in great detail of how to get there. So it's usually the most common way for people to get there today, right? And yes, Scott, in this economy, yes. Well, you have to invoke them in all economies. Also, it's always good to know that remember that we are as kings for people who practice this, or for forefathers in Tibet and India. The kind of life I have like flower offerings here, and I have like machines that allow me to talk with you. We are like kings to them. Like I'm also like 47 today, and I'm now in again pretty good shape again. So like they would think that I'm an elder god or something like this. So, yes, in all economies, in all economies. So let's start. Let's start, so we don't wander off too far from this path. So again, we relax, right? We relax just a second. We take 3 breaths. We empty the channels, and then we're going to meditate for a couple of seconds just to relax. Excellent. Now relax and meditate for a second to focus again. Excellent. Now, first we focus on the sun and the moon. We visualize them in the sky. And now we imagine that they are the eyes of all the Buddhas, the 3 times, looking down at us. And the blessings run with the light. Golden light from the sun, silver light from the moon, that bathe us, they bathe our family, our teachers, every single being, purifying them, but also empowering them. And having done so, we chant the mantra 27 times with me. Dunati Mahadunati Suru Suru Swaha Shukla Bishodani Tara Tara Swaha Yoti Pradipe Turu Turu Swaha Padma Malani Satya Tara Bude Huru Huru Swaha Satya Bude Sati Akalkani Kiri Kiri Swaha Dharani Buddhi Apratita Buddhi Guru Guru Swaha Laksha Nachite Duma Pari Hare Guru Guru dara maha dara 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 yamdi ye so abrate sutape aprati pi budi dara dara yamdi ye so dunati maha dunati suru suru so Shukla Bishodani Tara Tara Swaha Yoti Pradipe Turu Turu Swaha Padma Malani Satya Tariya Buddha Huru Huru Swaha Satya Buddha Sati Alokani Kiri Kiri Swaha Dharani Budi Aprihata Budi Kuru Kuru Swaha Lakshanarchite Duma Pari Hari Kuru Kuru Dara Maha Dara 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 Yambitye Swaha Avarade Sutape Apratiha Budi Dara Dara Yamtiye Swaha Dunati Mahadunati Suru Suru Swaha Shukla Bishodani Tara Tara Swaha Yoti Pradipe Turu Turu Swaha Padma Malani Satya Tare Bude Huru Huru Swaha Satya Bude Sati Akalokani Kiri Kiri Swaha Dharani Buddhi Apratita Buddhi Kuru Kuru Swaha Lakshana Chitte Tuma Parihare Kuru Kuru Dara Dara Maha Dara 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 Yamtiya Swaha Abrade Sutape Apratiha Buddhi Dara Dara Yamtiya Swaha Dunati Maha Dunati Suru Suru Zoha Zukla Bijodani Tara Tara Zoha Jidoi Paradina Uru Turu Zoha Baramalani Zadia Buddha Huru Huru Zoha Ke Buddhi Zadia Lokani Kiri Kiri Zoha Zarani Buddhiya Pratibna Buddhi Kuru Kuru Zoha Lanani Anjadite Duma Paride Kuru Kuru Dara Maha Dara 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 Yamdi Zoha Avarate Zutape Apratihada Buddhi Dara Dara Yamdi Zoha Dunati Maha Dunati Suru Suru Zoha Shukla Bishodani Tara Tara Zoha Yoti Prade Turu Turu Zoha Padma Brani Zadya Buddhiye Huru Huru Zoha Satya Buddhi Satya Alokana Giri Giri Zoha Darani Buddhi Aparanita Turu Guru Zoha Lakshanita Dumi Paride Guru Zuru Zoha Dara Maha Dara 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 De Zoha Abarate Sudabe Apratihata Bodhi De Dara Dara Jambiye Zoha Dunati Mahadunati Suru Suru Zoha, Jukla Bishadani Tara Tara Zoha, Yodi Prade Duru Duru Zoha, Padmalani Satya Buddha Uru Dara Zara Zara Buddha Satya Alokani Giri Giri Zoha, Darani Buddhi, Apratani Handi Buddhi, Kuru Kuru Zoha, Lakshanarjite Murambari de Guru Guru Dara Mahadara Dara Dara Yamdi Zoha, Abarat de Zudape, Apratihadi Buddhi, Dara Dara Yamdi Zoha. Dunati Maha Dunati Zuru Zuru Zwaraha Zurkala Zukla Bishodani Tara Tara Zoha Yoti Prade Turu Turu Zoha Padmalani Satya Buri De Huru Huru Zoha Satya Buri Satya Alokani Giri Giri Zoha Tarani Budi Apratihati Budi Kuru Kuru Zoha Om Lakshana Jite Duma Parihe Kuru Kuru Zoha Tara Maha Dara 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 Yamti Ye Zoha Abarate Sutape Abarati Bhavite Dara Dara Yamti Ye Zoha Dunati Mahadunati Zuru Zuru Zoha, Sukla Bishondani Tara Tara Zoha, Yoti Prade Turu Turu Zoha, Padmalani Saria Bude Huru Huru Zoha, Satya Buddhi Satya Alokani Ke Kiri Kiri Soha Darani Buddhi Apratihati Buddhi Kuru Kuru Soha Lakshani Jite Duma Parihe Kuru Kuru Dara Dara Maha Dara 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 Jamdiye Soha Abarate Sutape Apratihati Buddhi Te Dara Dara Yamdiye Soha Dunnati Mahadunnati Zuru Zuru Zoha Shukla Vishuddhani Tara Tara Zoha Yoti Prati Turu Turu Zoha Padmalani Satya Bore Buri De Huru Huru Zoha Satya Buddhi Satya Alokani Kiri Kiri Zoha Darani Buddhi Abridahiti Buddhi Guru Guru Zoha Lakshanarjite Duma Parihe Guru Guru Dara Mahadara Dara Jamti Zoha Abarate Sutabre Apratete Buddhi De Darani Yamti Zoha Dunanti Mahadunanti Sudanuna Soha Jukla Pishondani Dara Dara Zoha Yoti Prade Turu Turu Zoha Padmalani Satya Buddha De Turu Zoha Satya Buddhi Satya Galokajine Nuri Zoha Tarani Buddhi Apratihanti Buddhi Guru Guru Zoha Lakshana Jite Duma Parihe Guru Guru Dara Dara Maha Dara 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 Yamdi Zoha Avarate Sutape Apratihi Buddhi Dara Dara Yamdi Zoha Dunanti Mahadunanti Zuru Zuru Zoha, Zoga Viduzani Dara Dara Zoha, Yoti Prati Turu Turu Zoha, Padmalani Dari Burite Uru Huru Zoha, Satya Buddhi Satya Alokani Kiri Kiri Zoha, Tarani Buddhi Aprate Handi Buddhi Kuru Kuru Zoha, Lakshamatite Duma Parite Kuru Kuru Dara Maha Dara 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 Yamdiye Zoha, Avarate Sutape Aprate Handi Buddhi Dara Dara Yamdiye Zoha, Dunati Mahadunati Sudinuru Zoha, Dukla Bishondanin Tara Tara Zoha, Yotibadi Pe Zuru Turu Zoha, Padmalani Satya Buddhi Dururu Zoha, Satya Buddhi Satya Alokani Giri Giri Zoha, Tarani Buddhi Apradhini Buddhi Kuru Zoha, Lakshanarite Duma Parihe Kuru Kuru Dara Maha Dara 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 Yamti Zoha, Abarade Zudape Apradhini Buddhi Dara Dara Yamti Zoha. Dunanti Mahadunanti Zuru Zuru Zoha Jukla Bijadani Dara Dara Zoha Yodim Pratipe Nuru Duru Zoha Panmalani Satya Budite Huru Huru Zoha Satya Budiye Satya Alokani Giri Giri Zoha Darani Budi Apratihe Budi Guru Zoha Achanarjite Duma Barihe Guru Guru Dharma Dara 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 Yamdiye Zoha Abara Dizudabe Abratihe Dani Jam Zoha Dunati Mahadunati Duru Zoha Jukla Bishondani Dara Dara Zoha Yodi Pratipe Duru Zoha Palmalayani Satya Mure Uru Zoha Satya Buddhi Satya Alokani Giri Giri Zoha Darani Buddhi Abradahan Buddhi Guru Zoha Lakshanari De Duma Parihe Guru Guru Dara Mahadara Darana Yamti Zoha Avarate Sugrabe Abradari Buddhi Dhamade Jamti Zoha Dunati Mahadunati Zuru Zuru Zoha Zukla Bishadani Dara Dara Zoha Yoti Prati Duru Duru Zoha Palmalani Zadi Buddha Huru Huru Zoha Zadi Buddha Zadi Alokani Giri Giri Zoha Darani Buddhi Aparati Buddhi Guru Guru Zoha Lakshanarji De Duma Parihe Guru Guru Dara Maha Dara Dara Dam Jeto Zoha Abaradi Zudabani Abridihadi Buddhi Dara Dara Jamti Zoha Dunanti Mahadunanti Guru Guru Zoha Zugaini Dara Dara Zoha Yodi Bradi Duru Duru Zoha Barmalani Dara Uru Zoha Zarya Budi Jagalani Giri Giri Zoha Darani Budi Darani Budi Guru Guru Zoha Om Lakshanaji De Duma Barihe Guru Guru Dara Dara Mahadara Dara Dara Yam Diye Zoha Dara Dara Zutabe Abrati Hedi Budi Dara Dam Diye Zoha Dunadi Mahadunadi Zuru Zuru Zoha Jukla Bishadani Dara Dara Zoha Yedi Prati Duru Duru Zoha Padmalani Zade Buddha Duru Zoha Zade Buddha Dalabani Zoha Darani Yabrani Guru Guru Zoha Lakshana Jadi Duma Parade Guru Guru Dara Maha Dara 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 Yam Zoha Avara Sutabe Abrada Hedi Dara Dara Yam Zoha Dunati Mahadunati Zuru Zuru Zoha Zukla Bishadani Dara Dara Zoha Zoha Padmanati Zoha Satya Buddhi Satya Gaukanjine Zoha Darani Buddhi Apraditha Buddhi Guru Guru Zoha Lakshana Jite Duma Parihe Guru Guru Dara Dara Maha Dara Dara Yam Zoha Abara Zutabe Apraditha Dara Dam Zoha Dunati Mahadunati Suru Suru Zoha Shukla Vishondani Tara Tara Zoha Ito Pradipe Suru Zoha Padmalani Satya Buddhi huru huru soha, sete budi he zat alokani ge giri giri soha, tarani budi aprati di hokudi guru guru soha, lakshanani jay duma pari he guru guru dara dara maha dara dara yam diye soha, avarate sutape aprati he budi dara dam diye soha. Dunati Mahadunati Suru Suru Zoha, Sukla Vishodani Dara Dara Zoha, Ito Pradite Turu Turu Zoha, Padmalani Satya Budie, Uru Uru Zoha, Satya Budie, Satya Lokani Viri Zoha, Darani Budia Praditi Budi Guru Zoha, Akshanaride Duma Parihe, Guru Guru Dara Maha Dara Dara Yemti Zoha, Abarade Zun Tape Aprati Budite Daramye Zoha. Dunadi maha dunadi zuru zuru zoha zuga bejodari dara dara zoha yito pradipe turu turu zoha padmadani tadi budi tadi tadi budi da dagalagan de zoha dara nyu de aprate de kuru kuru zoha lakshanarji de duma pare he kuru kuru dara maha dara dara yam de zoha abarat sutape aprate dara dam zoha Tuna mahodati zuru zuru zoha, la vajai bina zoha, jito pratipe turu turu zoha, padmalani satya purini, turu turu zoha, satya puri sat alogni kiri kiri zoha, darani budi aprate di kuru kuru zoha, lakshana de duma parihe kuru kuru dara, mahadara dara yam diye zoha, abarati sutape aprate puri dhamma yam diye zoha, Duhati maha duhati zuru zuru zoha. Tuglebejin diccionari tara tara zoha. Yote pradipe turu turu zoha. Padmalanani tate budaye huru huru zoha. Zede budiye zade agagani kiri kiri zoha. Darani budi aprati hundi guru guru zoha. Lakshanarite duma parihe kuru kuru dara maha dara daram yanti zoha. Abarate sudape aprati budi dara dam yanti zoha. Durante Mahadunti Durizarizoa, Dublevani Dara Zoa, Dito Pratipe, Turu Turu Zoa, Padmalayani, Saida Budite, Uru Huru Zoa, Sandia Budizan, Jalokani, Giri Giri Zoa, Tarani Budi, Apratani Budi, Kuru Kuru Zoa, Om Lagnazite, Duma Parihe, Kuru Kuru Dara Mahadara, Yamdiye, Zoha, Abrarate Subra, Abrede, Dara Dam Die Zoha, Dunati Mahadunati Zuru Zura Zom. Zura Zoha, Zukla Bishodani Dara Dara Zoha, Yotimra di Pe, Duru Zoha, Padmalani Zati, Uru Zoha, Sete Vodizat, Alogani, Duri Zoha, Tarini Vudi, Apareni Guru Zoha, Lakshanaji de Duma Parihe, Guru Guru, Dara Mahadara Badaram, Di Zoha, Avarat Tape, Avarat Budi, Dara Yam, Di Zoha. Dunati maha dunati zuru zuru zoha zuglabani zuglajin vishodani dara dara zoha yodi pradipe turu turu zoha padmalani sadia buride huru huru zoha se buride sad agelan giri giri zoha darani budi apni huru huru zoha lakshana shite duma parihe kuru kuru dara maha dara dara yamdi zoha abarat zutape apratina buride dara yamti zoha Dunnati Vaha Dunnati Suru Suru Soha Sukla Bishodani Tara Tara Soha Yoti Pradipe Turu Turu Soha Padmalani Satya Bude Turu Huru Soha Satya Buddhe Sailokine Kiri Kiri Soha Dharani Buddhiya Prati Buddhi Kuru Kuru Soha Lakshanarchite Duma Parihe Kuru Kuru Dara Mahadara Dara Dam Yam Tiye Soha Abrate sutape apratahi buddhi dara dara yamtiye. Om. Homage to the blessed one, the Tathagata Nyan Lolka. Homage to the Tathagata Suvarna Pravakuta Nidvasa. Homage to the Tathagata Satyavarin. Homage to the Tathagata Diksha Mavartarijasa. Make these mantra verses effective. Swaha. And with this invocation of a blessing, is complete. Oh, give me 1 second. Someone is calling me. Hola. Sorry. One of these emergencies that are not an emergency. I really need to talk to you, and there's a poll because we're voting. It always can intrude in life. So, how was it for everyone?
It was okay, Fede. Really
Excellent.
nice.
Excellent. So, from now on, what I would put on speed dial. Yes, yes, yes. So my advice is from now on, if you can, once per month, especially on the full moon like today, right? Do this practice. Start doing this practice from now on once per month. Why is that? Because once per moon would be nice to do it once per moon on the day of the new moon. This will help empty out all the hells, which is a major part, right? There are more beings in hell, there are more beings here right now. And also it will help all the rebirths. And also it will purify. It will purify everything that you have and empower you. So it's going to be a very good practice. And the most important part is what we're going to do now, which is the dedication of merit. Because I don't know how to say it like with more emphasis. I've been trying like my whole career as a teacher to say it with more emphasis. People still get it wrong. They still call me and they're like, "What's in it for me?" Right? And Buddhism is not for you. Sorry, I don't care who you are, who you're looking at me right now. It's not for you. It's for every single being in which you are. Yes. Yes. Majili.
Well, I might just have to laugh.
Okay. Yes. I mean, it's not for you. It's for every single being. You are included in this every single being. But it is a very different mindset. It's a very different activity that you approach it with. This is for me, right? That the approach of it's for every living being. It changes the whole thing. It's like the taste, right? Because even in the most pratimoksha of the pratimoksha, in the most individual liberation itself, we must remember that not only Buddha did in Duekhor Duchen teach the Kala chakra, but let's say that you're not a tantric and they remember Vesak, the day that the Buddha was born, that he got enlightened, and that he died. On this day, the Buddha got enlightened. And what did happen after? Do you remember, guys, what happened after he got enlightened? Enlightened? Two things happened that are important. Does anyone want to guess which two are? Or should I say it?
Una se fue a los infiernos.
No, that's in the Vajrayana. That's in the Vajrayana. Yes, he went to the hells. Lama Sera says yes in the Vajrayana, but in the Pali Canon, let's put it like this: in the Theravada and in Gayagana.
Did he go to his mother and teach her the Dharma to liberate her?
No, that came later. So I'll tell it so nobody is guessing that much. So first thing happened is that he got enlightened and he's like, oh, this is enlightenment. I'm not going to be able to talk about it, you know, because it is irreducible to words. So what should I do? It's not like I can go people and say, hey, I found the way to enlightenment is like this. Whatever I say is going to be not understood correctly because language itself traps us in duality. Then the gods themselves heard it, and Chakra, which in Buddhism is the way that we call Indra Mahendra, right? Came and said, please turn the wheel of Dharma. That's the first thing. Because if he hadn't not, he would have been a Pratikya Buddha, a solitary Buddha. And those are not revered in Buddhism. They are Buddhas, but they are not part of Buddhism in a strange way. Because they just keep it to themselves. And they may be innumerable Pratikya Buddhas. I don't know. But if they just keep it to themselves, how are they helping people? Whereas the Buddha understood that the first thing he had to do was go and help people. That's the first thing he did. So he just got on his feet and started walking. And the first person that he met on the road was a merchant. And this merchant saw the Buddha in the cusp of his enlightenment. He had just eaten, he had again a healthy glow. And you know what happened then? You recall it. The merchant didn't believe him. The Buddha went like, hey, I'm the Tathagata. I've been just enlightened. The merchant was like, yeah, I don't care. He just went walking. And then after that, the Buddha started thinking, this is very difficult to teach, and people are not going to want to listen. Who should I teach? And then he started to remember the 5 rishis, which he had trained, and he says, they are looking for the same thing I was looking for. They are going to understand me. And then he went, and those 5 rishis are the beginning of the Buddhist community, the Shanga, and the Kulas and everything that comes later. So remember that today is the day of community. And please do not, I repeat, do not try to always keep things for yourself, because this is the way in which you tie yourself to these ideas of deities. Even if you don't understand the relationship, trust me on this. The moment, if you want to be a good Buddhist, give away things. Give away things. Might someone come and say, hey, I like this habit, right? Because the thing that we are more tight-fisted with is ourselves. It's the idea that we have of ourselves. There's no self, but we think we have. We're so tight-fisted that some people, even that they say that they're Buddhists, they try to find, like, instead of emptiness, a fullness or a presence of God. And this idea of God, this idea of an eternal thing, it's because we cannot let go of ourselves. We cannot bear that we're going to die and we're going to be buried or cremated or whatever it is, but then the animals are going to feast in our remains. That's going to happen to you, that's going to happen to you also, and to me. So we must make friends with death. We must make friends with death. And in order to do that, we must give away most of things. So the first and last thing we must do, that the thing we're going to do now, is we're going to give away the merit. So put your hands together and repeat with me. In the same way that the Bodhisattvas, Manjushri and Samantabhadra train by giving away all the merit, I give away all the merit that I have gathered from time without mention. Of the 3 times, the merit I have, the merit I had, and the merit I will have, I give it away so that every single being might reach Shambhala. And especially we will mention that our brother in Dharma, Gustavo Porro, might quickly reach the Pure Land that he needs, and that we might all meet in the land of the Daikinis. Om Dare Dare Bandare Swa Jaya Jaya Shidi Shidi Ala Pala Aha Asha Sama Mama Puling Samanta Saramangala.